See me, Candace?
Not yet. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you, but on my side, your screen is black, but that does not necessarily mean you can't see me. Okay,
There I
let's see.
am.
I
Listen, we're gonna get this thing together, okay?
was
Good
determined. Listen,
morning.
I was determined. I am so grateful to have you. While we were getting you on here, I was just telling everybody that this is the finale, but you getting ready to come on and give a word. And that yesterday, yes, yesterday we had Camila come through and we talked about self-worth. And yes, she did. We gave yes. And me and her have done some things in podcasts together. So when we get together, it's always a great time. And she started talking about legacy. I said, well, look how fitting that is because Candace coming the next day to sum us up. So the book, as
Listen,
I
I saw it. That was y'all did that.
well, thank
Y'all had
y'all.
me here snapping and clapping, and so yes,
I'm gonna have
I
to let
totally
her know.
enjoyed that.
I'm gonna have to let her know because she is so excited. So she's busy today, but I told her we're gonna make sure we do this for her. As
Absolutely.
I was saying, this was for the I Choose Me, my book called The Picture of After Never Losing Yourself Again. And February is when I released the book, but I did my first I Choose Me back in January. I was launching it, and people loved it so much that they asked me to do a second round, and I wanted you to be in the second round, right?
Thank
So I
you
reached
so
out.
much.
I said, I gotta have my girl come on through and serve us. So without further ado, I'm not going to hold everybody up on this Self-Love Sunday. Tell people who you are and what you're about.
Absolutely. So, first of all, before I even get started with that, I got my copy. So I have not had a chance to dig into it yet. However, I have scanned over the titles of your chapters, and so we'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
But I do remember when Camelia said yesterday, she said, this is not that kind of book where you can just be like, and it's not. I was like, y'all not going to play with me. I got to get into this. So without, like you said, without further ado, just to introduce myself, my name is Candace Madison. I am a professional coach in the making, professional author in the making, all these things, but I'm definitely a professional person in adulting. So
We all adulting. Yes.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. So you and I had the pleasure of meeting on Robin, shout out to Robin, with the Mamapreneur podcast last year. And so that was kind of my first introduction to doing anything like this, podcasting, any live things of that nature. And I knew that I had a calling and a passion for it for my specific niche. So just to kind of give you an idea, so you know this, but everyone else doesn't.
Right, girl, run it.
Yeah. So I've been a caregiver for the last probably 11 years now for my mother. I'm her legal guardian. She had an accident that left her completely disabled. And so I had to kind of figure out how to navigate, how to be my mother's caregiver, hands-on, because I'm that kind of daughter where I'm a mama bear. I don't play about my people. And so I wanted her not to just be cared for, but to also like be cared for well. So I'm over ambitious. I'm, what do you call it? Not hyper, but high functioning. So I wanted to like take care of mom, and then I've got my children, and then I've got all these things on my career that I'm working on, my spouse. All these different things were happening, and I was becoming a fried squirrel, is what I like to call it. It's called, to me, I've named it the fried squirrel dilemma. And so I started going through all these things, and you talk about some of these things in your book. I noticed some of the chapters where you were, especially when you talk about getting to the roots, right? So for me, there were so many moments where I had completely burned out. I was fried squirrel. I was done. I'm looking at the mirror. I don't recognize myself. I'm disassociated as all get out when I'm even present at events for my kids or at these doctor's appointments for my parents, or just all these things were happening. And so it made me have to pause and really take a good self-assessment of where I was and kind of where I wanted to be. Um, And like I said, I'm not just trying to completely reference the book, but I just looked at a few things, but it made me laugh because I said, girl, this is the blueprint right here, okay? Because I took an active approach to my own healing and my own blueprint for my life. I really started asking myself some really hard questions, saying, okay, where are we right now? I looked at the kids' ages, what we had already walked through. I was in peril in every way, shape, and form. Now, to the naked eye and the people around me, it looked like I was functioning well. Oh, she can handle it all. We'll just give it to Candace. And what I found interesting was that the validation of it all was actually fueling me. But it was really coming from a very, superficial place. It was just feeding my ego. So I was crashing and burning so often and closer together. So I would say probably a nervous breakdown number 10. This is not working anymore. So what I did was I have some notes next to me. So if you see me looking over here, I'm looking at my computer. But for me, once I figured out I was sick of being a fried squirrel, I did the self-assessment. I think that there is a line of distinction where you have the people that are, high achieving, ambitious, high functioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's not coming from a healed place. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm going to say this because for me, innately, my nature is to help, is to serve. I have a servant's heart. That will never change. So in part of that self-assessment that I did for me, and I can only speak from my own experience, but I do know that it worked. The questions that I had to ask myself is, because, you feel used, you feel abused, you feel misunderstood, you feel all these things, you feel underappreciated, and you making everybody else's life run smooth and yours looks like, a cluster mess, right? So I had to look and really sit with myself and say, okay, what are the qualities about myself that I do appreciate? My personality type, my attachment styles, how I parent, how I love, how I do all these things. Of those things, what do I really love about myself in those areas, right? So I had to make that list first because I don't want to lose those things about myself. I still like those things about myself because that's a tightrope, honey. You can get real cynical real fast when you feeling underappreciated. I ain't doing nothing for nobody. Don't ask me to do nothing. Don't look at me. Don't. But I really wanted, so I wanted to maintain those qualities, but I wanted to do it from a healed place. So the first step for me, and you may even talk about some of these steps in your book because it's so funny, just reading the order and the steps of your chapters is literally kind of what I did holistically for myself when I was going through 4 years ago. And I first put together my support system. I put together my people that I knew I could come to and say, okay, what are the things that need to change? Or the people that wouldn't judge me in those changes, right? Mm-hmm. So I got my support system together because I had to make some drastic changes. One of the things that I noticed after assessing and saying, okay, what are the things that I like about myself? My next question to myself was, what do you need to take your hand off of? What do you no longer need to control the outcome of, right? So those were the next set of steps. So I kind of did this in a project planning, just in stages and phases, because I didn't want to try to eat the whole elephant in one bite. I wanted lasting change. I don't want to do the whole, what do they call it? Quick changes or temporary changes, right? I didn't want that. I've been doing that. I've been faking it till I make it and all of that for the last 20 years. I'm sick of that dynamic. I want to have actual fruit that is being bare off of a tree that's going to continue season to season to continue to bear fruit in a good way. I don't want weeds no more. I want good stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So after I did that, I pretty much had to acknowledge that there were some things that I was going to have to release. There's always that releasing that has to take place. So I had to release a lot of different things in order to carve out and design the life that I wanted to. So for me, I heard you asking Coach Camelia yesterday, like what the word of the year is, or what is the word of the season. So for me, it was humility. And also, I don't just have a word I have a phrase. So my phrase for this season is no sudden moves.
Mm.
And I find that no sudden moves for me means that I'm not making choices based on trauma responses, based on people pleasing, because that was a big one for me. I was like, baby, y'all be really boosting my head up when y'all tell me that I'm so good at all the
It's a
things. And I'll be
chapter
like,
there, that girl.
and I'm taking it out. Girl, I'm over here I'm under the bed because I'm so tired, okay? And so, the no sudden moves thing was every time and I'm gonna tell you, some of this is blessings too. It's not just the negative side of things, because I feel like I've kind of made it on the other side of some of this, right? I know my triggers. I know my self-care routines and the practices that I need to do to keep me in alignment with what I'm working on currently, right? But we all still get inundated with things. So I get inundated with a lot of opportunities now. People are coming to me with abundance and opportunities. No sudden moves. Not every opportunity is for me. Not every opportunity is designed that's going to, because I don't want to cloud what my message is, or that sort of thing, right? So it's important for me to kind of stay the course. And if I need to switch gears at a different point, I'll have the discernment and enough, understanding to do so at that time. So it's really about trusting your own self, making sure that you're not making sudden moves based on, whatever your relationship is with someone specifically. Like, I know that's my best friend and my soror and my this and that, but do I really have time to take that on? Am I biting off more than I can chew based on what my current situation looks like? So really just taking that assessment all the time. Like, every morning when I wake up, I'm like, okay, what do I have ahead of me? What I will say is that I am now in a season where I used to have huge levels of anxiety because I was trying to tackle all the things. The anxiety has subsided nearly to nothing. I still have my days. But again, I know what to do in that moment and say, okay, what's wrong? Or and I don't know if you talk about the inner kids in your book or inner children. I figured you would, just based on some of the titles. I'm like, oh, I know she's talking about some inner children. Okay.
I did.
Right. So I found that I started out with one inner child, and I have a whole family now. It's like 10, I got like 10 kids. And so each of those children needed part, there were parts of me that needed to address and heal those areas. Right. So, I've gotten all the way up to 23-year-old Candace. Okay. I'm 44 now. I've lived quite a bit of life, but I feel like my life is just beginning.
Oh, I just turned 40, so you speaking to me, girl. Come on now. We just beginning out.
That's me in that season. Listen, I heard y'all talking about some of the things we walking through right now in the season, girl. Okay. Some of these personal summers and some of the stuff that we're going through. So, it's very real. What I will say is that, and I'm going to kind of go through some of these notes too before we wrap up, because I want you to be able to kind of weigh in on some of the things that I'm talking about. The confidence that it has built in me from the time that I saw you and Robin on the first podcast that she invited. I know, hey Robin. I tell you that the confidence, because of I was so serious about my healing, and I'm that term, standing on business. I am standing on business about me now in ways that I didn't even feel deserving of prior to now. And so, like I said, I feel like I'm on the other side of things. My intent is to help people that are in the caregiving space, in the care industry, with practical application, with regards to how to navigate an action plan. Every dynamic of family issue, everything's not dysfunctional, but you have family dynamics that do not support some of the things that come up when your parents get sick, or even if you have special needs children. I have good friends of mine who have children that are special needs, and understanding that this is a life that you're going to likely have for the rest of your life. You're going to be taking care of this child for the rest of your life and theirs, right? Things of that nature. So putting together support action plans that help assist with that are practical. Everybody doesn't have time to do a lot of, changing of their routine. So when I'm helping to implement different strategies for people, for the individual caregiver that may be new to caregiving, or maybe they are just, like I said, at the fried squirrel dilemma. Those are the things I'm doing. So now, Caregiver Preservation Network is where I started with the podcast.
However, I'm taking notes, okay?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it started with Caregiver Preservation Network. That started with a podcast that turned into a Facebook group that has turned into coaching and professional speaking. I've spoken at a couple of different events now. We have changed the name to Empower to Care. And I wanted it to be something simple. Caregiver Preservation Network is cool because I love the word preservation. Self-preservation is key in any success that you intend to have in whatever you're doing. Yes. But it was a very long title. And so I was like, let's shorten it up. Let's make it, attractive. And now, since I'm going over into the branding of coaching and professional speaking, I wanted to make it more friendly that way. So the purpose of Empower to Care is the practical application of designing a life for yourself that you and your loved ones can feel authentically proud of on this side of living. That is the purpose of Empower to Care, as well as the power of living your legacy. What I really wanted to make sure of was that my children had a chance to see me from a healed place. Not sick. Unfortunately, both of my parents were sick very young. When I say very young, I mean in their 50s. My father had Parkinson's. He passed away about 3 years ago. I was also very hands-on with his care and the things that were going on in his journey with that. And so watching both of my parents decline, and they were both like my heroes. They were two people that I held to a very high standard because, they just took a lot of pride in themselves. And so to see them decline, and, my mother's almost in an infantile state. It's like caring for a child almost, right? Yeah. She's great now. She has a brain injury. And so it induced a certain level of dementia towards, for her.
I'm a nurse too. So listen, girl, when you talk to me,
so she's had all these different things happen. And so I've been such a champion for her care, and I was a champion for my father's care. But it didn't come without its trials of just being told no, and one door closing over here, another door closing over here. You make just a little bit too much money for that. You don't make enough to do this. You don't qualify for this program because you're not mobile enough. You just made the cut on that, but not quite. So all these different doors closing in my face.
I'm going to pause you for 1 second because the chat has been blowing up and people are supporting you. Said, Candace is my earth angel, watching her journey unfold. Jazz with the Pro said, Mimi would not be thriving for this long without you. So people have been in here supporting you. And
thank you. These are people that have seen me throughout my journey. My mom, when she got sick, we put a movement together. It was called Moving Mountains for Mimi. It was such a sudden thing. So we had to do like a fundraiser. And, I have a presentation that talks about that. I still have my Caregiver Preservation Network podcast that's on Spotify. And I also have episodes on YouTube as well under Caregiver Preservation Network. I am not going to proceed with the podcast in the same fashion at this point in time. I'm working on some other projects to build the branding for Empower to Care. But some of these people on here have known me for many years, and some just for the last 5 or 10 years. But all the steps that we've taken have been just in love, and they've resulted in some really cool outcomes. We got my mother home. When my mother had her accident, she was in California visiting with my aunt. And so we had a chance to fundraise for her over a period of time. It yielded a great result, lots of support. We raised like $10,000. We got my mom home. But the reality is when we got her home, I became her full-time hands-on caregiver. And I didn't have any experience in any of that. And so again, that's part of what my mission is to try to help educate people as much as I can. I have a mixer that I'm doing on June the 8th over at the Westminster.
Ramen already put it down there for you. Ramen,
Thank
listen,
you.
the chat is blowing up. I'll let you talk, but I gotta throw in the plug so people know what's
Yes,
going
indeed. I
on.
want to know how people can. That's an event that you can see me at in person. It's a free registration. I have invested in this whole thing myself because I believe in this so much. I was at a networking event last night where I met actually quite a few people that I am, wanting to get to position into my resource network so that I can say, hey, go to this person when you need this. I'm looking for elder care attorneys. I'm looking for people that work in the healthcare networks as far as caregiving, aides, assistants, social workers, Medicare, estate planning, aging in place people. I'm looking for all of that.
I'm calling
So
that
that
in for you, girl. I'm calling. Go ahead,
yeah,
call it out into this. Call it out.
out there. Yeah, I need
Yeah,
that.
put it out there.
Yeah. So, like I said, when I saw that there was a need for people like me to get lost in the weeds, trying to have it all and manage it all, and also experiencing that loss. I have lost a lot, but I have gained so much more since, making those sacrifices. I've had to really lose some very impactful things that, but what I will say is that my therapist, Sarita, anyway, the whole therapist is her name. You can look her up on Facebook. She's awesome. I have been in therapy with her for 4 years, and she talks about every single one of these things that you're talking about in this book. And I feel like this is a good blueprint and guideline for anyone, that this is a good framework for anyone that needs to heal, because the healing has to take place in order for you to really thrive in the areas in which you want to help assist someone else.
I talk about my therapist in that book. Okay, I talk about my own therapist in that book.
It is, and everybody, the strong ones. I look at us as the strong ones. Like you said, we're the strong friends in the group. And what I love is that I have a group of us, like. All of my friends are all like superheroes. We're what my best friend calls it the Justice League. We are all in this Justice League together.
Yes.
And especially, like in another phrase she always says is, we are all just walking each other home. And I feel like the women like us that are championing for, the greater good, the collective of positivity and growth and things of that nature, we really have experienced some of the nastiest, ugliest treatments, some of the most horrible extremities of this life, right? And I always tease when I'm in prayer, I'm in meditation, and I'm like, okay, God, you don't have to make it quite this catastrophic. I get it. Like, you can just have it just be a little bit of a lesson. It don't have to necessarily be quite this extreme. But the extremities of it are what really build us and what really mold us and shape us to be able to walk everybody else home or bring the next person up into what it is that we are trying to help out with.
What I was going to say is two things that came up for me. One, I was watching Keon Henderson, the Mother's Day. They had a lady speaking, and she talked about it's heavy, right? But we make it look so easy. And so a lot of times as a strong friends, we got all these things, all this weight we're carrying, but we make it look easy. And people, and you said some of this too, we make it look easy so people continue to pile it on us because we look like we don't have anything going on. We look like it's not bothering us. We look like, but then we go home. I hit burnout twice and I almost stroked on the last one. And so I am that's part of how people pleasing for me turned into I choose me, because choosing me made me better to show up as a parent. I'm a divorcee, but it made me show up better at home. Like, it's just so many things, right? And as a caregiver at work and a caregiver at home, it just really put things in perspective, because my stress level of being so high is how I lost one of my babies. And so I tell people all the time that the loss, and where I was going with this also is I spoke yesterday at a conference called Still Worthy, right? And they had me speak on the power of vulnerability. I also spoke from the place of letting people know your tests become testimonies. And you have to understand it's really not about you, it's about serving other people. Because when we start sharing our story, right, you've been through so much, but that's your purpose. It's the ugly things that end up becoming the purpose. Because when people say, well, how do you find out what your purpose is? Most of the time, all the things you had to overcome end up becoming your purpose because you get passionate about it, right? You're passionate about caregiving and helping people because you didn't walk that walk. And
That's
people
right.
come find you, but you got to get in position. And so what I said at the thing is, it's like the Boaz, but I also talked about that with Camila. And I tell people most of the time, people find you, but you got to be in position. And so now you started off with the caregiving thing, but that was putting you in position. I met you through Robin, but we both were podcasting, right? So when you talk about rebranding, that's kind of how I went from podcasting to coaching, because the people that were listening to the podcast said, you need to become a coach. I want to work with you. So you end up birthing things by just walking out the things that are passionate about that end up becoming your purpose.
That's
so the
right.
strong, most of the time we get together, we let down with each other because we recognize we speak about things that we're passionate about because we walk it out. So I care about self-care and burnout, and I care about women learning how to choose themselves. I care about, my podcast is called Intentional Queen Journey, or Intentional Queen Podcast Journey to Restoration, because I was broken. And so when I spoke at another event 2 weeks ago, I was at the nail shop, and the girl heard about my story. My nail girl, she's my biggest champion. She had my book propped up at her station. And as you know, I walked right into a speaking engagement the next week because there was a girl there who was looking for a speaker that was going to speak on my topic. So being in position.
That's right. That's right.
For somebody too, the things you're afraid to really talk about end up being your blessings. And that's why vulnerability, I say, is easy, but it gets you in position. It's the blessing.
It really does. You got to stick yourself out there, and that's what I've been doing. I've really been getting outside of my comfort zone. I was never a person that did the lives or even any videos or anything. My daughter helped me with a lot of this stuff, but I find it so essential now. It's just gotten to the point where if I do not deliver this message and package it and put it out there the way God intended, I'm just gonna burst. So I'm like, that's where I'm at right now. I'm putting together course creation. I'm putting together action plans for people. I've been consulting for a while, but again, this is one of those things where you have to put, okay, I got to start monetizing some things for one, okay, because my time is not free anymore. But also understanding that there are levels to things. So, I'm still being compassionate. I'm still being who I am, the things that I like about myself. I'm still being those things authentically, but I don't play about Candace anymore. So I'm putting
I choose me. That's right.
I choose me. Look, I choose me, and so yeah, and also just understanding that there's a distinctive line between like the transactional efforts versus reciprocal efforts, selfish versus self-preservation. I'm always leading from a place of reciprocity or self-preservation. I'm never doing anything just for the, to say for cloud or for, any of that. I am literally out here about to stick my neck out because I believe that this is a need. It's been too many people that have come across my path that are just as confused and fried squirrel as I was. And they're like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't have known. I needed you 5 years ago. I didn't know what to do. And I was in this situation. And so I definitely understand, what my purpose is and kind of where I'm headed with all of this. But again, I think the biggest takeaway is just, when we're talking about the power of living your legacy, you want to have something that's going to not just make you proud, but also like there's lessons and things. Like none of this goes perfectly. You need to be able to take a lesson out of everything you do. Every time I walk up on a stage, every time I'm in a class or teaching or anything I'm doing, what could I have fixed better? Also
self-reflection.
Reflection. Also knowing that coaching, I need a coach to coach. So
coaches need coaches. Yes.
Yeah, so coaches need coaches. I didn't understand that concept because I've been going at things alone for so long, or at least I felt alone, or there wasn't a structured framework. But now I seek out, assistance. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to say, hey, you know this better than I do. So I build a team. I feel like whatever your team is, you ain't got to spend a lot of money. Whatever your team is, whatever your need is, I suppose, for whatever it is that you're trying to execute, put a team together. The person you can talk about all this stuff with, that'll just be a sounding board. Who's better at technical things? Who's better at,
social media, marketing.
I'm going to tell you what Spirit told me the other day, and I started laughing, but it's true. Spirit said, you need an assistant. And I was like, an assistant?
Yeah, you need a VA out here. I need one.
I'm worthy enough and important enough to need an assistant. I thought that was just amazing, but it just made me laugh. But, not today, but it's coming. And so I just was like, wow. And so, there are things on this vision board and in this vision head of mine that, yeah, baby, you need an assistant. So I have a whole team that's working on my branding. I have a team that's working with me on business concept.
Robin says she got VA. Well, send her my way because I'm in search of a VA. Let me put that out there. That's
yeah, I'm telling you, and for me, it's now I'm gonna have to sit down and figure out what I'm willing to take my hand off of and delegate to this virtual assistant. I'm gonna tell you.
I have to pray about that. That's why I knew I needed. When I waited too long, my coach told me, Robin, to tell you, last year when I did my big Bloom master class, I had 4 coaches last year. I spent those figures last year. Book coach. I had a coach for everything.
Yeah.
Remember how you say you switching things with your marketing, when you get serious,
yeah,
you make some moves. So listen, first thing they said, you need a VA. I said, okay, what am I ready to put my hands on? So I had to pray about that. So I got my list now of what I'm ready to give away, but then I recognize what I need, right? So once you get there, then you feel more comfortable, because my other coach who helped me with, managing my business side to side, she said, you need to get a VA to do the things that you don't want to do or that you're not good at. That's the delegate, because you need to be working on money, monetizing any money type things, or if you're the creator, you need to be working on.
Yeah, the creator, the course creation, just whatever it is that you're working on. I need to be able to be in my creative side for that part. And it was so funny because I'm like, my ego got in the way a little bit, because it was like, I'm good at that. I can do all that stuff because I did it before, and I was like, girl, let them folks do what they're good at. You do what you're good at, and let these people do what they're good at. And so that was the biggest lesson for me, because I have been such a control freak over the years. Because again, just felt like I was going at it alone. And then when people see you're strong and you can do everything, they're throwing everything at you 24/7. So I kept taking all the balls, and then I got all this stuff piled up. So now, yes, I'm sitting down, I'm looking at, what am I good at? What can I actually do? What is going to be a product that is worth, the branding and everything else? Like, I want this to be a very legit situation. I'm not looking at this just to make a few dollars a month. I'm looking at this to take me out of being a corporate cutie. I don't have to do
corporate
that.
Cutie, I like that.
But I don't want to have to clock in. I want to be able to say, you know what, I don't want to work 2 weeks out of the month, but I'll work these 2 weeks out of the month. I'm reframing what time, the concept of time looks like for me. I'm reframing how I want to live to be 100. I've already said that's what's happening. But I want to live healthy to 100. I don't want to look like a fried squirrel or stroked out or heart attacked out. I don't want to do any of that. So now I'm even applying all of the physical things. I've gotten some surgeries that I needed to get done that I put off for the last 20 years. Different things have happened, and I did all of that intentionally because I knew it was going to increase the quality of my life and my vitality. So while they were scary things to do, it was like, come on, girl, do what you need to do. And so now I feel a ton better, and I'm just in a much better place with all these things. So
what I do want to say about legacy, which I think is so good. My son was a twin, and I lost that baby. And so my son asked me a lot, like, why he survived and why his twin died, right? I know that's sad, but, he's 8 now, but, he be asking me some real grown-up questions since he was 4. And so I dedicated this book to him, okay? But we talk about legacy, so that's why I'm bringing it all full circle. And so because I won't be here forever, I wanted him to know my story, and I want generations after. My mom read my book. My mom cried when she read my book. My mom is like so stoic, like hardcore. And so I broke chains off my mom when she got through the roots. You see that? So this is to someone when sometimes you're talking about legacy as what's coming after you, but sometimes it's what you just broke before you.
That's it. It's why you're on this side of living. My kid, after we had gone through so much as a family over the last decade, one of the things that I assessed with my children, I was like, I don't want my children to experience me broken completely all the time. Like that's what we're carrying. That's what we're wearing, is this badge of burnout and this badge of, oh, mama's so strong and she's so da da da. And I'm like, no, we ain't doing that. I want to, like, there's a soft life here. I'm soft like that. I don't want to do that. So
we talk about in the book. Blooming into you gotta get in there.
Something that I've noticed too, since I healed in a lot of areas just drastically over the last 4 years, so have they. It's almost like watching you can kind of exactly see what happened in the fork in the road where, you know, things started to get better, or when, you know, my healing affected them. And I'm going to tell you something. I know we've got to jump off here in a minute. I feel like I've been
So
holding up time.
this all
But
right. Listen, we gonna let the spirit move. That's one thing people will tell you about me, you know. And if
okay,
people have to go
well,
listen, catch it on the replay.
I
But
appreciate it.
we gonna give a word. Give the word, girl. Give it.
So my son, he's 18. He's graduating high school this coming Friday, and my kids, my daughter's 22. She's a senior in college, so I have a senior in college and a senior in high school. My daughter graduates next year, but my son is graduating and this Friday, and so he came in my bedroom the other day, and he said this before, but it was the way he said it this time. So there's a picture of us, and I hate this picture. It's a family picture I took shortly after I got a divorce from their father. And I wanted some girl. I was hungover in this picture. I looked crazy. I had bags under my eyes. I looked a hot mess in this picture, and I'm just being completely transparent. But I had scheduled these pictures like a few weeks before. I had all our outfits together. I couldn't not get the pictures taken. So I'm like, we just don't have to go in here and to this photography studio and look like crap today. The kids look great, but I remember who I was on that day that I took that picture. So I've always hated that picture for that reason. I didn't think I looked good in it, but I keep it up. I have a big one that I keep on my fireplace, and I have another copy of that picture in my bedroom. And I keep it there on purpose to remind me how far I've come. So even though I hate the picture, it's just it's a good thing, right? So my son came in my room the other day, and he walks in, and you know, he never usually notices little knickknacks or trinkets that are in my room, but he looked at this picture and he was like, wow. He's like, look at us. And I was like, yeah. I said, that picture is like, you were like 8. That was like 10 years ago. And he was like, Mom, he said, you look healed. That's what he said. He's like, you look healed. I said, wow. I was like, thank you. And he said something to that effect before, but I think that the importance of that message for me was that none of my efforts, you know, because you think they're not listening, you think they're not paying attention. But every Tuesday is when I have therapy. We call it Trigger Tuesday. That's what my therapist calls it.
Okay.
So Trigger Tuesday is every Tuesday. If I miss a Tuesday, or if he doesn't hear my computer, hear my therapist talking in the background on a Tuesday, he's like, you not in therapy today? I'm like, not you checking for me to be in therapy today. He's like, I'm just used to hearing it. He has been listening to this therapy. He might be in the other room playing his game, or, you know, doing whatever, or walking around the house and having a snack. But I don't have any TVs on. I don't have any other noise in the background. So he is hearing all this therapy, all of these learning about the drama triangle and being a rescuer and a persecutor. And you know, he's hearing all these things. And so, you know, it's like the secondhand effect. He doesn't even know what he's been hearing and ingesting, but he has been listening. And the fact that he can see a picture from 10 years ago and compare it to my vibrancy now, or my healing now, is and I've been crying for days. And I said I was going to stop crying because my eyelash check yesterday, she said, that's why your eyelashes keep falling out, because you keep crying. And I was like, girl, maybe I shouldn't get them done, because I'm just been in tears for weeks. So anyway, I say all that to say that where I am now is the efforts that I'm doing and the projects that I'm a part of. I am really kind of always looking to do them from a healed perspective, and not from the badge of burnout and, you know, all of that. So my legacy for my children and the people that I have in my life and around me is that you all are going to see me thriving on this side of life. Y'all ain't got to wait till my funeral to be like, oh, no, you can tell me right now. And people have said to me, you look so much younger now than you did 10 years ago. I said, and this is my response every time somebody says that. This is what healing looks like. I look at pictures of myself from 10 or 15 years ago. I look 10 to 15 years older than I did right now. This is what healing and restoration looks like. So I've healed myself inside, and it is showing on the outside. And I'm grateful every day. I said, if God didn't give me another single breath, I'm beyond grateful. Thank you so much for having me on this show. And thank you for being a change agent and writing this book, because, you know, it's always like, if I would have read this 4 years ago, oh my God, But it really does take application. I think that where people lose the race at is when they think that there's a destination involved and there's not.
It's called intentional queen journey.
That's it. It's a journey. It's never going to end. It's almost like if you're in narcotics or AA or any other thing, it's something that you have to be intentional about every day with your sobriety or anything else. You know, this for me is like, you know, I've stayed in a place of hurt and pain for so long that now it's like my body is regulating to be able to receive and to feel good. And it's like I woke up 2 weeks in a row and I felt good every day. And I was like, wow, that's the longest stretch of feel good that I think I've ever had, you know, because you got a day in between there where some stuff popped off and you're like, hey, so that broke through.
I'm laughing because some of this stuff, like, that's the life I lived. And
Yeah.
I respect everything you're saying because people really don't know what it feels like to feel healed. And I felt like, you know, I did turn 40, but when you looked at me 10 years ago, like I had already looked age because life was lifing me down.
Life and honey.
Okay. And I was stressed.
But here's the thing, life is going to keep lifing. That's the thing. I think people think when you're healed that life don't like. Oh no, baby, it does. It's just that it doesn't affect you in the same way. You don't respond to it the same way. It doesn't feel the same way. You don't get. That's why that no sudden moves statement that I made was so important. I was so triggered, anxiety filled, and everything else when life would life that I would just become like, oh my God, what do I have to do? Da, 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 da. Oh my God, you know, how do I fix it? Fix, you know. And I'm still a fixer on some level, but I do it with a level of wisdom now and discernment. And I'm like, okay, is that really my, you know, do I need to take that on?
Listen, I call that door to explore back.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm all ears like, oh, that sounds like a bad problem to have. I'm no longer like, what can I do to help that? That's sometimes not my, you know, like some people say my shtick. That's not my shtick to do. I don't have to do that anymore. But if I am able and I do feel led, then I will. But yeah, it's all about perspective and things of that nature. But I will tell you quickly where you all can find me at so that, you know, if you all want to support. I do have I'm not on IG as far as business just yet. But I am on Facebook. And so Empower to Care is simply the word empower, the number 2, care. So there's a private Facebook group that I have for caregivers that people can kind of share their stories, you know, get any sort of support that they need. We do have a program that we launched last year, and it's called the Meal Train. And so what that is that we give a caregiver an award of up to $200 every quarter to assist with, you know, like I had the person I gave it to the first time was someone whose husband was in and out of ICU. You live in the hospital all the time. You are, you know, exhausted from eating out of the vending machines. You're exhausted from who cook where, who's going to cook. Okay. So you've got all those things going on. You have other family members that you are responsible for. So we want to award. So we are looking for sponsorships to help with the meal train. We're looking for sponsorships for that as well as some other projects, but definitely the meal train, because that's something that we want to continue to do ongoing, depending on the need of the caregiver. It's just, I understand, I lived in the hospital waiting room and in hospital rooms for 10 years. And so I understand, and I had kids and they were like, what we eating? And I'm like, I don't know, they sick of sandwiches, hamburgers. They were tired of everything. But I feel like that was something that really did help me. I had a cool support system of people at the time locally that would just all bring us meals like throughout the week. So somebody did a Monday, another person did a Wednesday, and so that would carry us through the week for a while. But those people got busy too, you know, and I understand that. So for me, you know, I want to touch some people worldwide. So I understand with the meal train, we can't cook a local meal and bring it to you, but we can at least help, you know, fund a meal for you and your family. So that's something that is near and dear to me for sure, is to help feed the famine of people that don't have energy. Do that sort of thing. So that's one of the things. So Facebook group, Empower to Care, but I also have a Empower to Care Facebook business page. And that is the page that I will be using to kind of post the different events that are going to be coming up, where I'll be speaking, how people can book me and that sort of thing. Everything is still a work in progress right now. My branding team is working on my landing page, which is empoweredtocare.com. And so, yeah, it's a lot of different things
I
in
see
motion right
expansion
now.
for you, girl. I see expansion. That's my word of the year. That's Robin's word of the year. Expansion. I already see it on you.
Yes. Oh, I
I seen it
love
on
that
you back
expansion.
then.
Okay, I like that. I like position too. Humility was the one word because it was something that kept me grounded in terms of what projects to take on, because I started getting, people were just coming at me like crazy, and I was like, oh my God, yay, but then I was like, okay, hold on. Get yourself, get grounded, get centered, girl. We got to figure out what's best for our brand and what's best for what the outlook of what exactly our message is going to be. So it's been a journey. The last year has been a whirlwind, and it's not stopping here. I plan on, like I said, my intention for the power of living my legacy was to actually carve a life out that I'm proud of, that I am intentional about, that I am joyful about when I wake up in the morning. Every morning when I wake up right now, I am full of joy. It doesn't even I may have a million things on my plate and some of them I don't even want to do, but I have joy in my heart, and I'm so grateful. That's all I gotta say. I'm just grateful. So.
Listen, I love all this for you business wise because we got Robin on here, but just so we can wrap it up for the people who are in transition of business, when you talk about legacy, that becomes your why. And so why are you doing it? And so for me, it was to build legacy. So when you are creating whatever it is God said on your heart, make sure you know your why, because
That's
it
right.
will get hard. Like you said, right? You keep joy, but it's things out there you don't want to do. And so it brings it back to me about the book, because I didn't want to do the book. Okay, so let me just put that out there I didn't. I
Tell them about not wanting to do something and still having to do something. See, that's where I'm at, girl. I
so
got
he
it.
put me out of work 6 months. I had no choice. My arm jacked up. I said, okay. He said, I dictated half the book by my phone. Okay. So what I'm saying to people is, when you know what you got to do, you have to do it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And choosing yourself more does not mean you're selfish. And like you said, your kids are watching. So I can have a testament to that with my kid watching me heal myself, working out, doing all the things I had to do when I was sick. Now he loves to work out. He's one that I say, you need to love yourself first so you can love others. Because a lot of people say, I love you more than me, and I don't say that. And
I
he's
don't
like,
say
well,
that anymore either. Yep, I stopped saying that. I don't do I love hard. No, I said, no, we're not doing that no more. No.
and do it afraid. Robin put it there, and do it afraid. And so
That's
I'm
it.
really big on that as a coach. That's why I say I like to alleviate overwhelm and stuff like that, so you can have inner peace and confidence and healing, so you never lose yourself again. Because once you do that, you can get to the bag. Remember how we talked about monetizing? So my
Yes.
clients come to me for the monetizing, but they recognize we got to deal with you.
You got to deal with that other stuff first. And that's what I've been doing the last 4 years. So it's kind of like emerging now from, some people call it inner work, shadow work, whatever you want to call that, whatever your practice or belief system is. But I had to get into the darkness of me. I had to go within me in ways that I was like, oh, I don't like this about me. I don't like that. And real quick, you talk about the inner critic. So the inner critic was huge for me, and we had a whole series of that in therapy about a year and a half ago. And so last summer I did a cleanse. I did like a total body cleanse, mental cleanse, everything, and it was for 30 days. And so every day, any irrational core belief that I had about myself, I countered that with a rational belief. And so I did that for 30 days, and it became a practice every day now. It's that practical application. People do not understand. They really do not understand, because you have all this content everywhere. So you pick all these little nuggets out from different places, but are you really practically applying it? Are you reciting it? Are you affirming it every day? Are you really living? Because once you start affirming it and you start placing it, applying it in an actionable way, you start seeing the results change. And I like that, because I was like, okay, we're seeing results here. Like, this is really happening. And but people get nervous because they don't see the results right away. So they start like, well, I'll just go back to what's familiar to me. The compulsion to repeat stupid stuff or stuff that didn't serve me anymore. And I think that is just going to continue to be how you shed skin at each season. So it doesn't necessarily have to even be anything super negative, but just like, when I do that, does that really serve me? If I procrastinate, does that really serve me? Or if I didn't say this, so it's just whatever works for you. Everybody's walk is different. But I fully understand that the practical application of affirming whatever it is that you really want to change about yourself or what you really want to accomplish is vitally important to that next step. So you got to shed some skin, you got to release, but you got to also do some self-assessment, like, what is it about me that I really need to change? And I'm gonna tell you something, everybody's not gonna like you. You're gonna piss some people off. You're going to cause some ripple effects positively and negatively, because it shines a light on what other people are doing. And
I talk about that in the book too. It's called Adversity.
All that affects each other. Exactly. And see, that's why we're in alignment, because we understand those principles. And, some of us don't understand, because see, you've written it in this book as a blueprint, but, you and I had to walk this without a blueprint. We had to do this like, and so, but we understand that all those things touch each other. And so also too, one of the other things that my best friend was telling me about that really resonated with me was the understanding. Because you kind of have to understand, you don't have to meet people where they are, but you need to full well understand their thought process and their mindset, because that makes you, what it does is it makes you understand how you can communicate with them. It doesn't make them lower than you. It doesn't make you better than them. It doesn't make you more. It makes it to where it's like, okay, so this is their thought process and their mindset. I know my process and my mindset, right? Mm-hmm. But this is theirs. I don't necessarily agree with it. However, I understand where they are coming from. You don't have to agree with it. You just need to understand it, so that you can be like, okay, so how am I going to approach this conversation with this person? Things of that nature. Those are all the things that I work in with the coaching piece of it, with families who have dysfunctional or less than desirable dynamics, especially when you fighting over who gonna get mama's China set, and how come you didn't make me the beneficiary, and how come, who gonna get mama's house, and all those things. So it's a mindset thing. It's repositioning. It's reframing how you think of all these things. So
this is out of my coach's face, girl. Now you talking. That's what we talk about in mindset coaching. That's why I knew my purpose became mindset coaching, because your thoughts lead to feelings that lead to action that lead to results. Like how you talk to yourself in here is how it's going to show up here, how it's going to show up at home, how it's going to show up at work. And respecting people for who they are, but recognizing who they are does not mean you have to entertain them. And be okay with where people go.
That's it. That's it. In their respective category. Yeah, you just have to reframe things. I don't do that. It's very rarely that I'll block somebody. I don't really do any of that kind of stuff anymore. I don't really have to, because I stand on business. I said what I said. You know what I mean? I don't have to block. I don't have to do any of the crazy things anymore. But you will get repositioned, or you will get put in a different box or a different category, depending on whether or not our interaction services either one of us. If it doesn't serve either one of us, then there's just no point in it. I don't want to be toxic to anyone, and I don't want anyone being toxic to me at this point. Friendship, business-wise, romantically, or otherwise. I'm like, in any way, shape, or form. My kids included. Like, my kids be like, oh, mama not playing anymore. No. So, look, my daughter's on here now. She's just like, yeah, my mom is not with the foolishness anymore at all. Like, I let a lot of things slide. They had the old Candace. This is the new Candace now. So
I'm going to finish up these comments, and then we're going to close out. They said it's important for our children to see us fall and then get back up. Those are muscles. I got people laughing in here. Your daughter must be jazzed with the fro. She said at all. She said at all. Okay.
Yeah.
So people ask how to get the book. You can get the I only have a few more collectors editions where I've been signing them. You can get that at ichoosebook.com, but it is on Amazon.com. You can get your own copy of the book. It has been put into some Bible study groups, and a school has reached out. So we are doing some things, and so this is a testament to you. Keep going, because the things we don't want to do become purpose that end up being expansion into other things. So without your legacy, see. I am grateful for you closing up. That's why I let us run longer, because this was a good summary to bring the I Choose Me Takeover to a close. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, so that's part of the reason why I wanted you as well. I am grateful to you. Please connect with me if there's anything else that I can do to support you within the Empower. What is it? Empower to Care.
Empower to Care. Yes.
Listen, when you see me with the pen, girl, I was coming down to write notes. I am grateful to you. I'm grateful to Robin, because that's how we connected. And so that is a testament to connections of just getting out there, getting out the house, girl, even if it's virtually. And if there's anything I could do for you, make sure to follow Candace, do all the things she's doing on Facebook. I really appreciate that meal train. So definitely, if there's sponsorships or anybody that watches this on the replay, please sponsor into certain people meals who are in the hospital. And I'm trying to think what else. I really have nothing else. I have a freebie if you do. It's called Positive Sexy Talk. It's the Sexy Talk checklist, because I believe how you talk to yourself is how you talk to others. You can get all that information at my website, intentionalqueenjourney.com. My podcast comes out every 2 weeks on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and these replays will be available. So I appreciate you guys. Your daughter said, great show, guys. My notepad is full of gems. So look at the daughter, bring it all full circle. I will see you guys on Self-Love Sunday, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You have a blessed weekend.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.